Hello friends, welcome to the Point. We are discussing about Sino-India relationship and this is our final part. So as we discussed earlier about the NSG membership issue and all. So in this session we'll be discussing about Masood Azhar issue. Masood Azhar issue. So China, it has an ambiguous stand on cross-border terrorism which profoundly affects India. And despite suffering terrorist incidents in its Xinjiang province at the heads of Uyghur Islamists who have close ties with the terrorist groups operating in Af-Pak region, that is in Afghanistan-Pakistan region, but China refuses to acknowledge the state-sponsored terrorism emanating from Pakistan into India for strategic reasons. The sanctions regime on Al-Qaeda and associated individuals and entities, which is also known as 1267 Sanction Committee Resolution 1267 Sanction Committee Resolution requires all states to freeze the assets of and to prevent the entry into or transit through their territories by and prevent the direct or indirect supply, sale and transfer of arms and military equipment to any individual or entity that is associated with Al-Qaeda as designated by the committee. So the 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanction Committee that has banned JEM is yet to sanction the Pakistan-based terrorist Masood Azhar because of China's technical holds. Though China is the lone member among the 15 member and UNSC to oppose the ban on Azhar, Beijing had claimed that different views existed about the India's application against Azhar. And analysts, they say that the China's decision on Masood Azhar has in part been driven by its reliance on Pakistan to help the counter-armed separatists targeting Xinjiang province and to ensure the stability in Afghanistan. So this is a country critical to Beijing is One Belt One Road connectivity initiative. So consequently, on August 3rd, 2016, top military commanders from China, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Tajikistan, they met in Urumqi, capital of China's Xinjiang province, to form a quadrilateral cooperation and coordination mechanism in counter-terrorism. So this is Masood Azhar issue. So the next is BRICS Summit. So this is the 9th BRIC Summit which was held in Xiamen. So this is a joint communique released at the BRIC Summit expressed concern about the regional security situated and listed the Taliban, IS, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, including the Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement, the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, the Haqqani Network, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, TTP and Hizb-ut-Tahrir as terror organizations. So the BRICS grouping unequivocally named Pakistan-based group Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Lashkar-e-Taiba as terror organization, and it removed a key immigrant in ties between New Delhi and Beijing and stepping up the fight against global extremism. So the BRICS declaration underscores a shift in China's position on hyphenating its ties with India with its relationship with Pakistan. And from India's perspective, naming Lashkar-e-Taiba, LET and Jaish-e-Mohammed are symbolic takeaways, especially since it comes after a tense border standoff at Doklam and also since China has in the recent past it blocked the designations of Jaish-e-Mohammed Chief Maulan Masood Azhar as a global terrorist at the United Nations Security Council, and Beijing he had repeatedly blocked New Delhi's move, as well as those by US, UK, and France to list Azhar on technical grounds. At that time, the declaration condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and thus it seemed to endorse New Delhi's stand, and there can be no distinction between terror groups, which was highlighted when it said that the context of Taliban that there can be no good terrorist and bad terrorist. However, experts say that the reference to Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba is not a first for Beijing and must be reinforced by a bilateral commitment on terrorism. So, in particular, they hope that the BRIC statement will translate into China removing its block on designating Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as UN Security Council sanctioned terrorist when its current hold on the process at the Security Council expires on November 1st. So it has been almost 16 years since China and other UNSC countries designated Jaish-e-Mohammed, and more than a decade since Lashkar-e-Taiba was similarly designated. So it is obvious that China's new role in the region, including the Shanghai Cooperation Organization leadership, it has given its new responsibility, and it is significant that this shift also comes the post Doklam. And the BRICS conference, which took place in Goa in India on October 2017, it has seen a major tussle over including the names of Pakistan-based terror groups and the term cross-border terrorism in the wake of Uri attacks. And however, after 2 months of the attack at the Heart of Asia declaration in Amritsar, a grouping which includes China and Pakistan also named them in December 2016. But there has been no visible change in China's policy on the ground so far, and therefore the resultant declaration had the same language used in the BRICS Xiamen Declaration. Meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of BRIC Summit. So, our Prime Minister Modi and President Xi meeting came amid diplomatic efforts. And this meeting on the two sides was to overcome the bitterness that is caused by the 73-day face-off between their troops in Doklam area. So, by putting up an united front at the BRIC Summit and proposing a revival of Panchashil principles of peaceful cooperation, both the leaders they have signated that they are trying to put the bitterness of the past few months behind. So they agreed to move forward in their ties and to put the relationship on the right track. So the focus of the bilateral was on border confidence building measures rather than fresh ideas to resolve the festering boundary dispute between the two countries. So during their meeting, the two leaders agreed that the two countries should make more efforts, including strengthening cooperation between their security personnel to enhance and strengthen the mutual trust and to ensure that such incidents do not recur. With forwarding look approach, they reaffirmed that maintaining peace and tranquility in the border areas was a prerequisite for the development of India-China relations. But both the countries talked about intergovernmental mechanism such as joint economic group, security group and strategic group, which can help both the countries to move forward. And there was a reaffirmation of the Astana spirit that the two sides will not allow differences to become disputes and that China and India are each other's opportunity but not threats. And analysts say that it remains to be seen whether the constructive start at Xiamen will strengthen the ties and make it capable of withstanding the regional competitions that India and China are likely to encounter in the future. as they deepen their ties in the Indian Ocean and the Asia Pacific region. So, the thinking driving India's Act East policy and China's Belt and Road Initiative is far from aligned. So, India's Indo Pacific doctrine is raising apprehensions in China that instead of pursuit of an independent policy, India is allowing itself to drift into a China containment mode with Tokyo and Washington as partners. And India has its own concerns about Chinese intentions in the South China Sea and the South Asian neighborhood, including Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Maldives. And China's nod to the inclusion of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed among the terrorist groups threatening regional stability, and its choosing not to speak of the contentious Belt and Road Initiative at the summit that is suggested it was healing India's concern. So, with the BRICS meet concluded, it doubly important that India and China's officials re-engage in sustained manner to address all areas of discord which led to the changed situation at Doklam, and they must take several steps such as review where the border defense standard operating procedures failed, and the two countries must convene the delayed meeting of special representatives and add the latest claims and counterclaims over the Sikkim boundary and the India China Bhutan tri-junction to the agenda of discussions. And it is necessary to see that the much acclaimed BRICS language on terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed is translated into actionable points as a show of good faith, especially when the issue of designating Jaish-e-Mohammed Chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist comes up at the UN Security Council, and when the UN's Financial Action Task Force takes stock of Pakistan's action against the Lashkar-e-Taiba. And there are organizations such as an ancient infrastructure investment banks, and BRICS could supplement interaction between the two countries to the intergovernmental level to build a robust relationship in the future. And it is imperative that the gains of BRIC Summit in terms of India-China bilateral are further built upon to strengthen the bilateral ties. And New Delhi, it has concerns that despite the fresh start in Xiamen on the sidelines of the BRIC Summit, the leadership changes in China at the 19th Party Congress in October will impact the trajectory of New Delhi and Beijing ties once again. So, this is all about India China relations. In the next session, let's discuss about the India Bangladesh relationship. Thank you.